Hello everyone. In today's lesson, we'll be learning about how to divide 2 digit, 3 digits, 4 digits, 5 digits as well as 6 digit numbers by 1 digit and 2 digit numbers. So we'll be solving them using the long method. So let's begin. So the question 1 says 22 divided by 2, right? So we'll be writing 22 here. Then for the division, we'll write this and the 2 we'll write it on this side. Now we need to know the table of 2. So if you don't know the table of 2, make sure you have a piece of paper where you've written down all the tables, right? So you can know the table of 2, correct? So now the first question you ask yourself, does this 2, you first take the first digit, right? Then you ask yourself, does this 2 come in the table of 2? So what do? You write the table of 2 down, right? So if you have a table of 2 on the side, times 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, right? Only this is needed for now. So does 2 come in the table of 2? We can see 2 comes in the table of 2, right? How many times does 2 comes? 1 times, right? Because 2 times 1 is 2. So does 2 comes in the table of 2 1 time. So you write 2, 1, because why? 2 times 1 is 2, so therefore you write a 2 here. Once you write that, now you go and minus, right? So what is 2 minus 2? That's a 0. Now you know this 2 cannot go into 0, right? Because 0 does not come into the table of 2. Or in other terms, you can remember this by this, that 0 is smaller than 2, so therefore we cannot, right? So now you bring down this 2. So now that you bring down this 2, you know you have a 2 here. Now again you ask yourself, does 2 come in the table of 2? As you can see, yes, 2 comes in the table of 2. How many times? 1 time. Therefore it goes 1 time. So 2 times 1, that gives you a 2. So what is 2 minus 2? That's a 0. Therefore the answer for 22 divided by 2 is 11, right? So 22 divided by 2 is 11. Let's move on to the next example. So question 2 says 33 divided by 6. So how do we write that? First we come and write 33. Then in place of divide, we come and write this by 6. Right? Okay. So now, what do? The first question we ask ourselves, we take the first digit, which is the 3. Does 3 come in the table of 6? Definitely 3 does not come in the table of 6. Why? Because 3 is smaller than 6, right? Because if you say the table of 6, 6 times 1, which is equals to 6. The smallest number in the table of 6 is 6 itself, right? So you can see 3 is smaller than 6. So what do you do in that case? In that case, you bring in the second number also. What is the second number? 3 also. So together, what is this number? 33. So now we need to look for a number. Does 33 come in the table of 6? First question. So we know 33 does not come in the table of 6. Why? Because let's say the table 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30, and 6 times 6 is 36. We can see 30 and 36, but there is no 33. So what do you do in that case? In this case, you need to look for a number which is smaller than 33 in the table of 6. So when we say the table of 6, you realize the smaller number than 33 was 30, right? Because 6 times 5 is 30, right? 6 times 5 gave us a 30, and 6 times 6 gave us a 36. So you can see 33 falls between the two, but we are looking for a number smaller than 33. In that case, that number is 30, right? So it means we are going to say 6 times 5. So we write a 5 here and we write a 30, right? Draw the line and now we minus. What is 3 minus 0? 3 minus 0 is 3, right? And what is 3 minus 3? 3 minus 3 is 0. So now your answer is here 0 and 3. You know 3 is smaller than 6, right? 3 doesn't come in the table of 6. So we cannot divide 3 by 6. Therefore our final answer is 5 remainder 3. So did you see here we had a remainder now. Let's move on to the next example. So now question 3 says 56 divided by 7, right? So what do? We first simply come and write 56. What's the next step? For division sign, we come and draw this and then we write 7 on this side, right? What's the next question? We first ask ourselves, does 5 come in the table of 7? The answer is no, correct? Why? Because 5 is smaller than 7, right? Therefore it doesn't come in the table of 7, right? So what do if it does not come in the table of 7? You simply add the second number now. So now you are working with 2 numbers. So the number is 56. Now it's important for you to know your tables, right? So let's write our tables on the side. We say 7 times 1 gives us a 7. So now that we are working with 56, right? So what do? We need to go and ask ourselves, does 56 come in the table of 7? If you know it by heart, then it's wonderful, right? Because you can just simply know the answer. If you don't know, here we got our tables on the side, right? So we know that, we check on this side, we can see, oh, there comes 56. How many times does 56 comes in the table of 7? That comes 8 times, right? So therefore we go and write 8 here, and we come and write 46, and then simply draw a line and a minus sign. Now what is 6 minus 6? That gives you a 0. What is 5 minus 5? That gives you a 0 again. You know you end there, right? Because it's a 0 and 0, so you cannot do anything. Therefore 56 divided by 7 gives you a 8, right? Let's move on to the next example. Question 4 says 65 divided by 4. So how do we write it? First we come and write the 65, right? The division sign, you draw this and you write the 4 on the left side, right? What is the next thing? Let's go and first write the table of 4, right? So always write your tables from 4 up to 12. Now let's go and solve this, right? So we go to the first number, correct? What is our question? Does 6 come in the table of 4? So we go and check. No, 6 does not come in the table of 4. So what is the next question? If 6 does not come in the table of 4, then the next question is there a number, right, which is smaller than 6 in the table of 4? As we can see, 6 is between the 4 and the 8, right? So yes, there is a number smaller than 6, which is 4 itself, right? Because 4 times 1 is 4, right? So it means how many times it will go? 1 times. 4 times 1, it will give us a 4. Now once we have that, we go and minus. What is 6 minus 4? 6 minus 4 gives us a 2. So now you go and ask yourself again, does 2 come in the table of 4? By now, you should be knowing this answer. The answer is no, correct? Why? Because 2 is smaller than 4. So therefore, 2 does not come in the table of 4. So what do? We bring down the next number. What is the next number? 5. Now together, what do they become? 25, right? So what is our question? Does 25 come in the table of 4? We go and check the table of 4. Nope, doesn't come, right? Therefore, that is not true. So what is the next question? The next question is now, is there a number which is smaller than 25, right? So if you go and search for a number, you can see 24 is smaller than 25, right? So therefore, how many times? 4 times 6 gives you 24. So it means 4 times 6 will give you 24. You minus, right? Now what is 5 minus 4? 5 minus 4 gives you 1. And what is 2 minus 2? That gives you 0. What is your question again? Now you go and ask, does 1 come in the table of 4? And you know 1 is smaller than 4. So there is no way 1 can come in the table of 4. So you know you are going to end there because there is no next number to bring down. So this is your final answer. Therefore, 65 divided by 4 gives your answer as 16, remainder 1. Right? So let's move on to the next example now. So now question 5 says 290 divided by 5. We are dividing by 5. That's why we have our table of 5 ready from 1 up until 12, right? So let's go and write this first. So we have 290, then divide by, what is it? 5. So again, what is the first question that we ask ourselves? We have a 2 here. Does 2 come in the table of 5? We know 2 is smaller than 5, so it does not come in the table of 5. What is the next question now? Now, since 2 does not come in the table of 5, it's time to bring 9 inside, right? So now we are working with 2 numbers. So we have 29. So now you ask yourself, does 29 come in the table of 5? You go and have a look. You can see 29 does not come in the table of 5. So what is the next solution? Now you ask yourself, is there a number in the table of 5 which is smaller than 29? So we go and check. We can see, oh, there is 25 which is smaller than 29, right? But how many times? 25. 5 times 5 gives you 25. So you have a 5 here. You write a 5 here and then 25, right? What's the next step? Go and write the minus sign. So what is 9 minus 5? 9 minus 5 gives us a 4. What is 2 minus 2? 2 minus 2 gives us a 0. Now again, you go and ask yourself, does 4 come in the table of 5? You know 4 is smaller than 5, right? So 4 does not come in the table of 5. So what is the next step? See if there is a number next to it. You can see there is one more number that we didn't use, which is 0, right? So you go and put a 0 here because you are bringing it down, right? So now, for 40, you ask yourself, does 40 come in the table of 5? You can see, yes, there is a 40. 40 comes in the table of 5. So how many times does it come? 5 times 8 gives you 40. It comes 8 times. So you go and write an 8 here and a 40 here. Once you have a 40 here, you go and write a minus sign. What is 0 minus 0? That's a 0. What is 4 minus 4? That's a 0 again. Now we know that we have both zeros, so that we can't do any further, right? We can't do any more calculations. Therefore, 290 divided by 5 gives you the answer of 58. Let's move on to the next example. Question 6 says 387 divided by 7. Since we are dividing by 7, we have written all our table of 7 on the side from 1 up until 12, right? So let's go and write this. So first we go and write 387 divided by 7, right? So what is the first question? We ask ourselves, does 3 come in the table of 7? We know 3 is smaller than 7, so it's not possible. Then we go and ask ourselves the second question now. Now let's go and include 8 inside also, so our number becomes 38. So again, let's go and ask ourselves, does 38 comes in the table of 7? As we see, we can see there is no 38 in the table of 7, right? There is 35, 42, but there is no 38. So the next question is there a number which is smaller than 38? We can go and see there is 35, right? Because 35 is smaller than 38. But how many times does 35 come? 7 times 5. So we have a 7 here times 5, which is 35, right? Now we go and minus. So if we minus, we can see what is 8 minus 5? 8 minus 5 gives us a 3, right? And what is 3 minus 3? 3 minus 3 gives us a 0. So now we are working with 3. Does 3 comes in the table of 7? No, 3 is a small number. That's 4. It does not come in the table of 7. So now what do we do? Is there a number next? We can see we have used 3 and 8, but we haven't used 7. So it's time to bring 7 down now. So we come and put 7 here, right? So what is our question again? Does 37 come in the table of 7? We go and see, we can see, no, there comes 35, 42, but there is no 37. So we ask ourselves the second question. Is there a number in the table of 7 which is smaller than 37? If we go and check, we can see 35 is smaller than 37, right? How many times? Again 5 times. So we say 7 times 5 gives us a 35. We go and minus. What is 7 minus 5? That gives you a 2. What is 3 minus 3? That gives you a 0. Now you go and ask yourself, does 2 come in the table of 7? As you can see, 2 is smaller than 7. Therefore it does not come in the table of 7. So we go and stop there because there is no number next to it, right? We have used all the numbers. So our final answer is 55, remainder 2. Now let's go and do the next example. Question 7 says 2805 divided by 9. Since we are dividing by 9, we have our table of 9 written on the right side, right? So now let's go and write this. So we have 2805 divided by 9, right? So now we begin with the first digit. What do we ask? We ask ourselves, does 2 come in the table of 9? The answer is no. Why? Because 2 is smaller than 9, therefore it doesn't come. So what do? Now we include the second number. So now together, that is 28. So what is the question we ask ourselves? Does 28 come in the table of 9? Let's go and check. If you look at it, you can see 28 does not come in the table of 9. So what is the next question that we ask ourselves? Now we go and ask ourselves, is there a number in the table of 9 which is smaller than 28? So let's go and check. If you check, yep, there is a number which is 27, right? 27 is smaller than 28. How many times does 27 come? We can see that's 9 times 3. So we got a 3 here, and that's a 27. So now what do? We go and minus. So what is 8 minus 7? 8 minus 7 gives us a 1, right? And what is 2 minus 2? 2 minus 2 gives us a 0. So what is the next question? You go and ask yourself, does 1 come in the table of 9? You know 1 is smaller than 9, therefore it does not come in the table of 9. So what is the next step? You bring down a number. So we can see we have used 2, we have used 8, but we haven't used a 0. So it's time to bring the 0 down. So when you bring the 0 down, what do we call this number? A 10 now, right? So you go and ask yourself, does 10 come in the table of 9? We know that 10 does not come in the table of 9. So what is the second question? Is there a number smaller than 10 in the table of 9? If we look at it, we can see 9 is smaller than 10. But how many times? 1 time. So we have a 9, we write a 1, 9 times 1, and we write a 9. Minus, we put a 0 here because there is nothing. So what is 0 minus 9? You know, you cannot minus 9 from 0 because 0 is smaller. So you go to the neighbor and borrow. So you cancel 1 and write a 0 on top, and here you come and write a 1. So that becomes a 10, right? So now what is 10 minus 9? 10 minus 9 is same as 1, right? And 0 minus 0, it's a 0. Now again you go and ask yourself, does 1 come in the table of 9? This is simple now, right? Because 1 is smaller than 9. So this definitely does not come, right? So what do? You go and check, is there an unused number again? We can see we finish use 2, we finish use 8, and we finish use 0. So now it's time to bring the 5 down. So if you bring the 5 down, this number now becomes 15. So let's go and ask the question again. Does 15 come in the table of 9? If we go and see, we can see 15 does not come in the table of 9. So what is the next question? The next question is now, is there a number smaller than 15 in the table of 9? If we go and check, we can see 9 definitely smaller than 15, right? And how many times? 1 time. So you write a 1 and then 9. Now you go and minus. If there is no number, just put a 0. What is 5 minus 9? Again, 5 is smaller than 9. So we cannot minus. So you go to the neighbor, you ask for something, and you write a 0. The neighbor gives you the 1. So now 5 becomes a 15. What is 15 minus 9? 15 minus 9, it's a 6, right? So you write a 6 here, and 0 minus 0 is 0. So now, again you go and ask yourself, does 6 come in the table of 9? No, right? 6 is smaller than 9, so it doesn't come in the table of 9. And is there any unused number? We can see we have used 2, 8, 0 as well as 5. So there is no number next to it, so we can't go any further. So what is the answer for 2805 divided by 9? The final answer is 311 remainder 6. Right? Let's go and do the next example. Question 8 says 1344 divided by 8. We have our table of 8 written on the side from 1 up until 12, right? So what do we do first? Let's go and write 1344, and for the division sign we draw this and by 8. So what was our first question? So we ask ourselves, does 1 come in the table of 8? So pause the video and think about it. Done? So you know 1 is smaller than 8, right? So 1 does not come in the table of 8. So what do? we include the second number, right? So does 13 come in the table of 8? So we start searching. Tick, 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 tick. You can see 13 does not come in the table of 8, right? So what is the next question now? We ask ourselves, is there a number smaller than 13 in the table of 8, right? When we look, we can see 8 is the smallest in the table of 8, which is smaller than 13, right? Because 16 is bigger than 13. So the smallest number is 8. And how many times does 8 comes? 8 times 1. So it comes 1 times 8. And we draw a line. If there is no number, just put a 0 and a minus, right? So what is 3 minus 8? We know 3 is a small one, so it cannot minus. So we go to our neighbor and we borrow 1. So we put a 0 there and write a 1 in front of a 3. So the 3 becomes a 13, right? So what is 13 minus 8? 13 minus 8 is 5, right? So now we got a 5. What is the first question we ask ourselves? We ask ourselves, does 5 come in the table of 8? You know, 5 does not come in the table of 8, right? Why? Because 5 is smaller than 8. So what do we do? Now that we are done with the first number and the second number, we bring down the next number, which is the 4. So 4 comes down. So now the number becomes 54. What do we ask ourselves? Does 54 come in the table of 8? So you go and search again. Is there 54 in the table of 8? As you can see, there is no 54 in the table of 8. So what do? We ask our second question. What is our second question? The second question is there a number smaller than 54 in the table of 8, right? So if we search, we can see, oh yes, 48 is smaller than 54, right? So how many times does 48 comes? It comes 6 times, because 8 times 6 gives us a 48. So it comes 6 times, and that is 48. So what do? Minus and draw a line. Now what is 4 minus 8? We know 4 is small, so we cannot minus 8 from it. So we simply borrow from our neighbor. Our neighbor is 5. 5 becomes 4, and it gives us the 1. So you put that 1 in front of a 4. The 4 becomes 14, right? So what is 14 minus 8? So 14 minus 8 is 6, right? So we write a 6 here. And what is 4 minus 4? 4 minus 4 is 0. Again, we ask ourselves, does 6 come in the table of 8? By now, we already know the answer, right? What is it? No, right? Why? Because 6 is smaller than 8. Therefore, it does not come in the table of 8. So what is our next question? Now we go and see, is there a number remaining that we can take it down? So we go and check. We done with 1, we done with 3, and we done with 4. So, but we're remaining with this 4. So what do? This 4 comes down. So when this 4 comes down, the number becomes 64, right? So if it becomes 64, what is our question again? We ask ourselves, does 64 come in the table of 8? Let's start our search. And if we see, you can see there is a 64 in the table of 8. How many times? It comes 8 times, because 8 times 8 gives us a 64. So it comes 8 times 64. You put a minus sign. What is 4 minus 4? That's a 0. What is 6 minus 6? That's a 0. So we know we have reached the 0. So now we can't go any further, and we don't have any number after the 4. So our final answer, when we divide 1344 by 8, we get our answer as 168. This is our answer. Let's move on to the next example. Number 9 says 12,109 divided by 12. Since we are dividing by 12, we have written down our table of 12. On this side, we have written from 1 up until 12, right? So let's write this. We got 12,109, right? Divide by 12. Before you do this example, pause the video, and then later on, after you are done with your solution, come back to the example and see if your answer is correct or not. Done? Okay, so let's begin. What is our first question that we ask ourselves? We ask ourselves, does 1 come in the table of 12? You know 1 is smaller than 12, right? So it does not come in the table of 12. Therefore, we need to bring in the second number. What is the second number? 2. So now together that becomes a 12. Let's ask our first question. Does 12 come in the table of 12? Let's go and see. Yes, 12 comes in the table of 12. You can see. How many times? 1 time. Because 12 times 1 gives us a 12, right? Therefore, it comes 1 times. And 12 times 1 is 12. We go and minus, right? So what is 2 minus 2? We know 2 minus 2 is a 0. And what is 1 minus 1? 1 minus 1 is also 0. So what is our next step? Since we got 2 zeros, are we done? No. Why are we not done? Because we can see we are done with the first one and the second one. But we still have 3 numbers remaining. Even though we have zeros, we can still not conclude here, or we cannot say that we are done. Why? Because we have 3 numbers remaining. So what is the next step? Let's go and bring down the first one here. So if we bring down the 1, let's first ask ourselves, does 1 come in the table of 12? We know 1 does not come in the table of 12. Why? 1 is smaller than 12, right? So therefore it doesn't come in the table of 12. So what is the next step? Next step is to bring down the second number, which is a 0. But the moment you bring down 2 numbers together, did you see we first brought down 1, then we brought 0 down. How many numbers did you bring down together? 1 and 0. So the moment you bring down 2 numbers together, you always have to put a 0 on top, right? So what did I say? Let me repeat this again. The moment you bring down 2 numbers together, right? Did you bring down 1? Yes, we did bring down 1, right? And then what did we see? That 1 does not come in the table of 12. Then we said, oh, if 1 does not come in the table of 12, then we have to bring down the next number. The next number was 0. So the moment you bring down 2 numbers together, then you have to put a 0 on top, right? So now we ask ourselves, does 10 come in the table of 12? We know 10 is smaller than 12, so it does not come in the table of 12. So what do? We go and bring down the 9 also. Now that we bring down the third number. So after you bring down 2 numbers together, after that, however many numbers you bring down, you have to put that many zeros, right? So we brought down 2 numbers. What did I say? If you bring down 2 numbers together, then you have to put a 0. But now the 10 does not come in the table of 12. So we brought 9 down also as well. So after you bring down 2 numbers together, any numbers after that you bring down, you have to put that many zeros. We brought 9 down, that's only a 1 number, so we put a 0 again, right? Now we ask ourselves that 109 comes in the table of 12. So let's go and check. As we see, we know that 109 does not come in the table of 12. So what is the next question? Then you ask yourself, is there a number smaller than 109 in the table of 12? So if we go and see the table of 12, we know there comes 108. How many times? 9 times, because 12 times 9 gives you 108. So therefore, it comes 9 times. So 12 times 9 gives you 108. Once you have that, you put a minus sign. What is 9 minus 8? That gives you 1. What is 0 minus 0? That's a 0. And what is 1 minus 1? That's a 0. What is the next question? Does 1 come in the table of 12? We know it does not come, right? Because 1 is smaller than 12. So what is the next question? Is there any number that we didn't use? Is there any unused numbers? No. We finish use 1, we finish use 0, we finish use 9. So there is no unused number. So we cannot go further from here. So what is our final answer? So when we divide 12,109 by 12, our answer is 1009, remainder 1. Okay, so let's go and do a similar question like this in the next example. Finally, the last question says 1,200,092 divided by 12. Since we are dividing by 12, we got our table of 12 written on this side, right? We always write from 1 up until 12. Please pay attention in this one. This is very important, right? So let's go and write this. So we got 1,200,092 divided by 12. Right. So what is our first question? The first question is, does 1 come in the table of 12? And the answer is no, right? Why? Because 1 is smaller than 12. So what do? We bring in the second number. What is the second number? The second number is 2. Now together they become 12, right? So now what do we ask? Does 12 come in the table of 12? We can see, yes, 12 comes. How many times? 1 time, because 12 times 1 is 12. So it comes 1 times, and 12 times 1 is 12. Then you go and minus. So what is 2 minus 2? 2 minus 2 is 0. And what is 1 minus 1? That's a 0 again. So now we have reached 0. Are we done here? Pause the video, answer the question, and give me a reason why. Then come back to the video and see if your reason is right or not. So the answer is no, we are not done. Why? Because we are done with 1 and 2 only. We still have all those 1 remaining. So what do? Once we have a 0 here, we bring down the next number. So first we go and bring down the first 0. Right? Does 0 come in the table of 12? Definitely not, right? It's way too smaller than 12. What do? Go and bring down the second number. That's a 0 again. But if you remember from the previous example, what did we say? The moment you bring down 2 numbers, you need to put 1 0 on top, right? So did you say we bring down 1 and 2? 2 zeros down. That 2 together, right? We brought them down together, right? First we brought down this 0, then we saw that it's smaller than 12, so we can't do anything. Then we went on to bring the second 0 down, right? Then we saw that we can't do anything else also, right? So we put a 0. So now we ask ourselves, both zeros we have, are they smaller than 12? Yes, they are smaller than 12, right? So it means we cannot do anything. So what do? We bring down another 0. So what did the rule say? After you bring down 2 zeros, you put 1 0. But after those 2 zeros, if you bring 10 numbers down, you have to put 10 zeros on top, right? So we brought down how many number? 1 number, which is a 0. So we go and put a 0 here. So now does 0 come in the table of 12? Again, no. So what do? We go and bring down the 9. So now we brought the second number also down. So how many zeros do we put? We go and put the second 0 also. Right? Now our number is 9. Does 9 come in the table of 12? It does not come in the table of 12. So what do? We go and bring down the 2 also. So now since we brought down 2 also, we go and put 1 more 0 for that. What do we do next? We go and ask ourselves, does 92 come in the table of 12? We can see 92 does not come in the table of 12. So what is the next question? The next question is there a number smaller than 92 in the table of 12? And the answer is yes, there is, which is 84. How many times? 7 times. So 12 times 7, 84. It comes 7 times, and that is 84. What is the next step? Minus, right? So 2 minus 4, we can't. 2 is smaller from 4. So we go and take 1 from the 9. 9 becomes 8, and the 2 becomes a 12. What is 12 minus 4? 12 minus 4 gives you a 8. And what is 8 minus 8? 0. Now, again we ask ourselves, does 8 come in the table of 12? The answer is no, right? Because 8 is smaller than 12. Do you have any unused numbers? We can see we have used all of them, right? There is no unused number. Therefore, we have to end them. So 1,200,092 divided by 12 gives you the answer of, it gives you the answer of 100,007 remainder 8. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson on division. If you need more examples on long division, please comment down in the comment box below so that I can upload more videos on long division. Please subscribe to my channel, like and share with your friends. Until next time, stay safe and study.